Hi, Latia. I'm really liking the double L design that you have going on here. Um, and my favorite of your thumbnails, these are all good, but I like these bottom two the most. Um, so, I mean, I can kind of show you how I would go about um, doing this in Illustrator. So if we open up Illustrator, do File, New, we can go to Print. And we could put this on inches if it's not on inches. And we need to put the width at 3, the height at 3. And then if this advanced options area is not open, just go ahead and open it clicking on this little arrow thing. And put this in CMYK color mode. Under color mode, raster effects should be on high, which is 300 ppi, pixels per inch, which means it's high resolution. Default mode, preview mode can be default. Don't need to go into more settings. So yeah, just get your document set up like this. Go ahead and push create. And then here we have our artboard. This is looking a little goofy. So here we go. And definitely make sure that, I don't know what is going on here, but definitely make sure that your properties panel is open. Under window, properties, just make sure that's checked and have that open over here so that you can reference that, because this is going to be a big asset for you when you're working in any of the Adobe products, any of the software. So first of all, I mean, you would just drag out a text box and put an L in there, and then you would just have to go through the list and try and find an L. Luckily, I found one relatively quickly. I mean, this may not be exactly the L that you want to go with, but I'm just going to try and keep this quick. So I'm going to go with this font. It's Adage Script JF. So I might actually make this a little bit bigger. I can do that over here under Character in the Properties panel. This will make it larger if I do the up arrow. And I can shrink the box around it with the black arrow tool. I'm on the black arrow tool. And then if I want to make a copy of this, I can just push Option and hold that down and then click and hold on it and then drag out and let up on my mouse and then let up on Option, and I'll create an extra L basically. And then I can kind of line these up the way I want them. You know, maybe I want them like this. I think that's how you have your L's somewhat in your, yeah, they're a little bit more continuous, it looks like, than what these ones are looking like. But this is pretty close to what you were, fairly close. Maybe it was more like this. Might be a little bit more like that. So yeah, probably a little closer to that. But if we, sorry, excuse me, I sneezed. So if we zoom in on this, we can, now we just need to select these with these text box. We'll do one at a time, but we'll select each text box and we'll go to Type, Create Outlines. And now we're making this editable text. Type, Create Outlines on both of these. So now we've made editable text shapes. Now they're shapes. So we can't use the text tool anymore on them to like highlight them and change them. They are now just basic shapes. If we select them, you can see all the anchor points. So one thing we can do, we'll just click and drag over these to get both selected at the same time, both L's. If we zoom in, we can see this now. And here are this shape builder tool is a great tool. It's underneath the black arrow tool. It's almost more than halfway down. If you can't find a tool, definitely go up into Help and look up Shape Builder Tool. Getting the spinning wheel of death, but you can click down here, Get Help on Shape Builder Tool. And it'll tell you things about the Shape Builder Tool, and it'll also point out where it's at. So if you hover over this, it'll tell you where it is with this blue thing. So you just have to hover over it. And you can also get like some tutorials with it if you need that. This is called the Discover panel. It's pretty handy. But anyway, so if you ever need help finding a tool or need help using a tool, that is also an extra resource for you. But so if we click and drag over this with the black arrow tool, go to the Shape Builder tool, we can use the Shape Builder tool to like draw lines through these shapes. to add them together. Actually, I'm going to do Command Z to undo that because there's certain shapes that I actually want to add in, and there's certain shapes that I really just want to subtract. So I definitely think I want to subtract this one. So if I push Option or I think Alt on a Windows machine, you hold that down, you get a minus next to the cursor. As you can see, sometimes it's usually a plus, but if you can push Option or Alt on a Windows, and you'll get a minus. And if you click on a certain shape, it'll subtract it. So we can subtract that, and we can draw lines with our mouse to join shapes together without pushing any additional keys on the keyboard. So now we have one clean shape for your L's that you wanted. And then if you want to, you know, go a little further with these, you could find a good font that's similar to this. That looks like you kind of did it in the shape of a pencil, which is kind of advanced. But you can, I'd almost say that might be a little bit hard to do at this stage. This is our first logo, so we're not going to go crazy. But if we look up like curved pencil icon, that's one thing I looked up in Google, and I found a decently curved pencil. And if I control click on this or right click, you can save that image to your downloads folder, and then go back into Illustrator and do a file place to bring that file into Illustrator from our downloads. So that curved pencil icon. So I did a file place, I navigated to it, and then I'm just going to click and let up at the size I want it to be. And then I can do an image trace in the properties panel. Under quick actions, there's an image trace button. If we click that, we can do black and white logo. And then we also have to click expand shortly after that, because it's a two-part process. So now I can see there's anchor points. This is made into a vector file. It's no longer pixel-based. So like if I grab this with the black arrow tool and drag it off, you can see there is a white background that was brought in on this file. So let's use the white arrow tool. Let's deselect it by clicking off into the gray. But it does help to drag this out into the gray with the black arrow tool and then click off of it so it's deselected. Then go to the white arrow tool, click on the white background and delete that. So now we have, you know, this pencil shape. You can click on the, so let's zoom in, Command plus or Control plus, or you can use the zoom tool. We're still on the white arrow tool. So we can actually make this a little bit more bold by going to the properties panel and going to the fill color. And actually let's select this white area and let's fill it with black. And then we can actually select some of these other shapes, you know, maybe, and make them white, which I don't know where they all are. There's just one more. I'm just going to do 3 of them because these actually might be too detailed, but we'll go with it anyway. And we'll fill this with black just to kind of make it a little bit, and let's fill this with black just to make it more bold, because with logos we really want everything to be pretty bold. Even these lines here that I have in here might be unnecessary. And in fact, I kind of think that they are. So we can select those and let's just make them. I push Shift on my keyboard to get all of them selected at the same time, but I went back to the fill and let's just make them black. And let's use the black arrow tool to move this over, and then we can kind of work with this hopefully. Command C to copy, Command V as in Victor to paste, and we can kind of get the black arrow tool, go to the corner here, and we can spin this around like that. So that's kind of similar. I mean, it's not exactly what you have in your, let's see, where's it at? Oh, here it is. So it's not exactly, but it's close to what you have. And I mean, maybe we'd want to put this like here and then like spin it a little bit more, because I think, you know, maybe something like that. Or actually, I think you had it more like this. And then this one should go here and be more like this. And we can actually use, you know, underneath the rectangle tool, if we click and hold down, it just looks like a plain square box, but if we click and hold it down, we can actually go to the ellipse tool and push Shift on your keyboard and drag out a circle, roughly the size that you want to go with. And let's go over here. This is the fill color on the circle, and this is the stroke, which is the outline color on the circle. But there's a little swap fill and stroke button here. If we click that, we can just see through the circle now, which is nice. And we can size this down. Let's push shift so we don't lose our proportions. And let's just kind of get like a nice size circle. And that will give us a little bit of a guide for how we want to set up these pencils. And if we push shift on our keyboard, we can get both selected at the same time. And in the properties panel, we can use, you know, this alignment of aligning them to the top edge, which they are perfectly aligned at this stage. So I can kind of do that. And then with this circle in place, we can also add in the text that you want to bring in. So to do the text in a curve path, we have to use underneath the text tool, click and hold down. You want to use the type on a path tool. So we click on that with this selected, with the circle selected. So select the circle, go to the type tool, click and hold down, go to type on a path, and then click on that path. And it'll automatically fill it in with Latin, which is kind of annoying, but we can type in Studios, and I don't want this font. It's using that same font we used before. Maybe I want more of like a, I don't know, something a little bit more, you know, angular. So let's just, maybe this one's pretty good, I think. So we could do that, you know, size it down over here in the character panel. That looks pretty good. I think I'll make Studio like just small, the S small, because the S was bigger there. It didn't really look that good. And if you have trouble, like there is like an end point to here that you can, oops, sorry, you can move these little things around with the, I'll zoom in. You can move these little things around with the white arrow tool to like change them. So this is the front, and this is actually the back. So this doesn't do a whole lot. But this is the front one, so you can move it around with this. I think you could probably also grab this and move it around with that, but it does tend to jump around a lot if you use this one here. So maybe just stick with using this one. So when you first go here, this one will be really close to it, so you might have to grab that and move it away, and then try moving this if you have to get that centered over. And that looks pretty good. One thing I would do is I would click with the black, with the text tool, and I would actually do an option, hold down an option or alt on a Windows, and use my left arrow on the keyboard just to tighten up some of the spacing between these two letter forms, because for whatever reason this font just isn't really, the spacing isn't automatically perfect on it, but we can change spacing in between the individual letter forms by using option, and either the left or right arrow will either bring them closer or further apart. And then now I can readjust this using the white arrow tool to make it perfectly centered. I think that looks pretty good. And then to get the studios on the bottom, you're probably going to have to use the ellipse tool over again, you know, drag out your circle by pushing shift to get a perfect circle. Make sure it's about the same exact size as the previous one. And then we can flip it in so we can see through it again. We can go back to the type on a path tool, click here, type in Studios, and then let's double click on type on a path. Let's put on the preview button, and we can push flip, and we can push OK, let's zoom in, and let's use the white arrow tool here to move this first one away from that one. And then here, we could do that. I'm going to make the S smaller so that it matches. Maybe we might have to make this smaller, maybe, so it fits in there a little bit better, which is kind of annoying to have it be a different size. Oops, gotta zoom in. And then I can adjust this so that it's working, or looking good anyway. I'll make this the same size, I guess, as the previous so that they match. So this one is 19. I can actually enter it in too, but it looks like I got it right. And then we can kind of just center this over the top, and maybe even like kind of nest it in a little bit more so that it's lining up a little bit better.